Rome thought fear would end. Rome thought fear would end Christianity. It was one of the greatest miscalculations in the history of the empire. In the year 303 AD, Rome still looked almost unstoppable. Its armies guarded the frontiers. Its governors ruled the provinces. Its laws reached across cities, ports, villages, and homes. The empire knew how to command. It knew how to punish. It knew how to make people afraid. And then Rome turned that power against the Church. Christian meeting places were targeted. Sacred writings were ordered to be destroyed. Leaders were arrested. Believers were pressured to sacrifice to the Roman gods. The message was clear. If Christianity would not bend, Rome would try to break it. To the authorities, this plan must have looked reasonable. Destroy the buildings, and the Christians would scatter. Burn the scriptures, and the message would fade. Arrest the clergy, and the people would lose direction. Use fear, and eventually ordinary believers would decide that faith was too costly. But Rome misunderstood what it was fighting. The Church was not held together by marble, money, or imperial permission. It was not protected by an emperor. It had no legions waiting outside the city. It had no throne from which to answer Rome's decrees. It was held together by worship, memory, scripture, courage, and a confession that Christians believed was worth more than safety. Long before this persecution, Roman officials had already noticed how strange Christians were. Pliny the Younger wrote to Emperor Trajan about them. He found that they gathered on a fixed day before dawn, sang to Christ as to a god, and bound themselves not to crimes, but to honesty and moral discipline. They were not dangerous because they were violent. They were dangerous because their highest loyalty did not belong to Caesar. That was the problem Rome could not solve. A Christian might obey the law, pay what was owed, live quietly, and still refuse the one thing the empire wanted most: ultimate allegiance. Rome could accept many gods, many temples, many customs. But Christianity declared one Lord above every earthly ruler. So in 303, the empire struck harder. Eusebius, an early Christian historian, describes churches being torn down and sacred scriptures being burned in public. The attack was not only against individual believers, it was an attempt to remove the visible life of the Church. Rome wanted the gatherings gone, the books gone, the leaders silent, and the people afraid. For a moment, it may have seemed as if the empire was winning. Imagine the scene: Roman officials watching churches closed, scrolls confiscated, and Christian leaders taken away. Imagine the confidence of men who believed that power could settle the matter. They had courts, they had soldiers, they had prisons, they had decrees. The Christians had prayers. But then the persecution began to reveal something Rome had not expected. Christians continued to endure. They continued to remember the scriptures. They continued to gather where they could. They continued to confess Christ even when confession became dangerous. The empire expected fear to produce surrender. Instead, suffering made Christian courage visible. Rome could destroy a building, but it could not destroy the Church. Rome could burn a manuscript, but it could not burn the word out of the hearts of believers. Rome could arrest leaders, but it could not imprison the faith passed from one Christian to another. The more Rome tried to expose Christianity as weak, the more it revealed the limits of Roman power. The persecutors expected silence. Instead, they found endurance. They expected panic. Instead, they found worship. They expected the church to disappear. Instead, the church remained. And then came the reversal. In 311 AD, Galerius issued an edict of toleration. The same imperial world that had tried to crush Christian worship now allowed Christians to exist and assemble under certain conditions. 2 years later, in 313 AD, Constantine and Licinius issued the Edict of Milan, expanding religious toleration and changing Christianity's legal position in the empire. The Church had not defeated Rome with an army. It had not conquered by the sword. Its victory was stranger, deeper, and more humiliating to the logic of empire. It survived. The persecution that was meant to erase Christianity became a testimony to Christian endurance. The rulers who believed they could control worship discovered that force has limits. They could threaten bodies. They could destroy property. They could burn pages. But they could not command the conscience of those who believed Christ was Lord. Diocletian is gone. Galerius is gone. The decrees are gone. The halls of imperial power are ruins and memories, but the church remains. Rome thought fear would end Christianity. Rome was wrong.